Testing, it's an incredibly strong word and comes in many guises, some correct and some not so much. Now, a tester might come from a variety of backgrounds. It could be someone fresh from school working for a magazine or a website, or indeed it could be an experienced engineer with decades of data and analysis behind them. Well, today we're in the south of France in some pretty challenging conditions to have a look at the pre-season world of the pros and some engineers. Now, mountain bike comes in many shapes and forms. Obviously, the key parts of that are such things as the frame, suspension, wheels, brakes and gears. But that's not to say other parts as well are equally important, such as the bar and stem width, height and material, or maybe the seat width or the grip texture and width as well. The off-season is when mountain bike race teams and manufacturers work together to test current and future products to find out just what works best in race situations. Recently, we were lucky enough to get invited to a secret Mavic test session with legendary downhill and enduro racer Sam Hill and the Chain Reaction team. Also in the area at the same time doing rigorous testing was the Sram RockShox team. And before heading up onto the hill to catch up with Mavic, we managed to get a quick chat with Evan Warner to see just what was taking place at the RockShox tent. Now, we are at the side of the road in a car park in the south of France. I'm joined by Evan Warner, who's the black box manager, correct?
Yes.
Or black box program manager. So, Evan, give us an insight into what testing involves, actually. What's the basics?
It's very involved. It does vary from team to team. It will depend on new frames coming out. So generally when we have a team come in, we do introductions and everything and work through, okay, what are we going off of? What new frames do you have coming out this year? What are you starting off the year on? That's kind of our basis. I mean, even as basic as you mentioned is wheel sizes. Okay, we ended the year last year on a certain 29, and this year maybe we're not on 29.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah.
Bit of an insight there into 2020 maybe?
We may try into starting something.
Now, Evan, arguably one of the most time-consuming things when it comes to testing is probably suspension, right?
This is true, absolutely. Yeah, suspension is one of the world's absolute focus for all of our top athletes. It's cross-country, enduro, downhill, everything. It's one of the key points of contact riders have with the ground, and it changes every year with new frames, new wheels, new technologies, everything. Because
what shock might work for one frame might not work for another, and the same if you have that shock on a different wheel size and a different wheel material. It's all the system, right, is what matters.
Absolutely, yeah. No, it's a very complex system, and this is why over the last several years we've created sort of a team camp or tune camp that we invite all of our top pro athletes and teams to. We'll generally go with, hey, this is what we have to sort of test out at this camp, isolate those. We'll generally start suspension-wise let's start with the basics, the spring rates, the air springs, and any changes that we have coming out for the next year will be incorporated into the test plan. And what our goal is for the end of this camp is to have athletes leave with a base set-in so that they have something to reference back throughout the whole season.
Just one base setting?
Well, that's a good point. For this track, it is a bit unique, a bit different than many others. It's very similar to maybe Croatia this year for the World Cup. But yeah, what we're shooting for is let's get a starting point, and then we can tailor it based on the track, World Cups, enduros, conditions, wet, dry, everything.
Is there ever an occasion? I have to apologise for the noise in the background. After all, we are on the side of the road.
We are on the side of the road, a very busy road.
I mean, imagine people coming past you thinking, wow, it's pretty much all the top-level pro riders in the world
all here
in the car park.
Street in France. No.
Yeah, I mean, you've been camped up here in the south of France for 2 weeks, right?
That's correct, yep.
And how many races have you had come through the SRAM truck?
All total, with teams and managers and everything, we've had about 70 or so athletes and staff and everything come through. It's a great way to start off the season on the right foot, meet mechanics, change of teams, change of riders, get everybody kind of together. Yeah. This year was a bit earlier than we've done it in the past, but the season starts earlier this year with South American EWS races in March and the first World Cup downhill coming up in Portugal.
So we've got Cardigan. Wait for that. Another motorbike. And
Look at the scooter. There's so many. It has been incredibly entertaining watching.
Evan, I'll let you go because you must, the information that must be in your head after 2 weeks and 70 athletes, your head must be just like, oh, exploded.
It's getting close to full. We get it, but thank you very much. It's great to see you.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Evan.
I appreciate it.
Miriam Nicole, you must be so excited for the season.
Yeah, I am. I'm getting a bit more nervous and excited, but yeah, I am.
Yeah. Hey, so listen, we're in Pay, very famous track. How important is testing for you?
It's really important. You know, I wouldn't see myself going into a World Cup without setting my bike perfectly before to go there. So yeah, it's really important to change tracks, to go to some really steep and technical, to some rocky one like here, or some fast one, to set your bike for a different kind of track.
How much do you rely on your feeling versus maybe what the engineers are saying to you?
Well, I think the most important is my feeling, and I kind of know myself now after I've been racing many years. So I know that sometimes I want to set my bike straight away when I'm not going fast enough, and the engineer are like not pushing in the same way. So I kind of know where the barrier is. The most important when I go on my bike is really the balance, and if I feel good on it. So if it's well balanced between the front and the back with the suspensions, and then how you feel on it. You have to really feel you, and it happens sometimes I do different setups, like for example the bars, if it's too big and it doesn't suit my shoulder, I feel straight away I won't be able to be me on the bike, so I know this is not the good feeling.
Okay, so do you have a good feeling for the year ahead?
Yeah.
Great.
I do.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Michelle, probably one of the most iconic downhill tracks in the world here at Pay in the south of France. We've had numerous world champions here, Nico Vulliers, Burrell, Gracia, Petey, but here we are now with Sam Hill, who's a 3-time EWS champion. But I want to cast your mind back, Michelle, because we have got alloy rims on the Mavic wheels, and this design hasn't changed for a while, right?
Quite a while, since 2002. We've introduced tubeless on the D-Max wheelset, the downhill ones, previously on the cross-country ones. But since then, having brought tubeless and airtight rims stays forever. It's kind of, we are celebrating 20 years anniversary this year.
So we're here. You're here testing, right?
Yeah.
So what are you actually looking for?
We are mainly looking for feedback from the riders. Really, the idea is to take into consideration what they need and how we can improve what we propose them. They got some straight ideas, what works, what's not, what they're happy with. But we are still focusing on trying to improve things, but taking mainly into consideration what their feeling is.
Hey, so look, we've got alloy rims. Obviously, why do people choose alloy rims and not carbon rims?
It's mainly a feedback from the riders, and also in terms of consistency and reliability in the tubeless system. They have no issues in air leaks or whatever, and also in terms of connection with the bike, the pairing with the bike, depending on the bikes. Too harsh carbon rims can be complicated to fine-tune the suspensions. So it's always a question of balance and rider feeling. Mainly.
Yeah, because I mean we've just got one wheel here with a certain type of spoke. Obviously you've got all these different brands. They've got different frame materials, they've got different suspension, different tires. It must be a very difficult job, right?
Yeah, it's complicated to integrate all the criteria because you can put your super wheel on a bike, the rider like it a lot, and you put the very same wheel set on another bike, and then the guy's something wrong, and it's just because it doesn't work the same together, so you don't have the same feedback from the ground.
Yeah.
So you get to adjust.
So what you're saying, what works for one brand doesn't work for another, or one rider weight doesn't work for another rider weight. But ultimately, alloy can still hold its own as in terms of performance as carbon fiber, right?
It's very different. It doesn't bring the same thing, but in the end, for now, that's the one.
I guess you, like you say, it's not just the material; it's the construction as well,
exactly,
right?
Exactly. How many spokes you get, how it's mounted, how's the dishes, the angles, the rim width, all those little things together makes a difference here and there, and can be the one to win or not.
Yeah. So we're near the bottom of the pay track. Let me just show you two different wheels here. You have a wheel with alloy spokes and you have a wheel here with steel spokes. But you talk about spokes, wheels are incredibly complex, right? You have the rim width, the profile, construction, you have the spoke type, material, tension, you have the spoke amount, whether 28 spokes or 32 spokes. I mean, there's so much to talk about in wheels, right?
Yeah, right.
So what is the process here in pay then? You've got three different types of wheel, right?
Yeah, we are starting, I would say, a long process with our team rider. This is a tough choice to make the D-Max Pro even better for the future.
Yeah.
So Sam won 3 consecutive titles, sorry.
First of all, how about the rim? Is the rim width different?
So the rim width evolved a little. We have for all the new wheel, it's a 30mm rim width.
Yeah, and the current one is 28, right?
It's 28, yeah. It's a small improvement. We just want to confirm with the rider that it's okay. And then we would like to try hookless rim profile and hook profile. So we have a different rim profile for them to test. So at the moment, spoke count, we have for Zycrol spokes.
Yeah, which is these ones.
Which is the aluminum spokes.
Yeah.
They bring a lot of rigidity to the wheel. So it's only 24 spokes, actually, the wheel they are using. And with the steel spokes, we know that we will lose a little bit in terms of rigidity. So we will try 24 tomorrow and 28 spokes, just to confirm that it will be okay or not.
So you say rigidity. Now, I was speaking to Michelle a minute ago, and you know, rigidity is not everything. It's good to have some compliance as well, right?
Yeah. When we speak about rigidity, you have vertical rigidity and lateral rigidity, which is quite opposite. And we have to find a good balance between a wheel which is good in terms of compliance, but we need a lot of dynamism.
Yeah.
When you exit the corner, you need a wheel that bring you more speed and
We're here in Pay. Obviously, the testing is done on feeling, first of all, and not fact, right?
Oh yeah, the downhill track's pretty savage. It's hard to ride smooth and keep your flow down this trail. So it's a great trail for testing your bike and getting the setup right.
So when you ride down, how important is fatigue as you as an enduro racer?
Yeah, definitely. It's some of our stages so long. If you can sort of make your bike set up and ride a bit smoother and easier, it just takes less energy out of your body, so it's only going to make you faster and stronger towards the end of the day.
Yeah. Hey, listen, here we are. You're running aluminium rims. I mean, you were probably doing that in 2002 when you were riding World Cup downhill. Isn't it funny how it's still a really important material, right? Aluminium.
Yeah, it's the Mavic wheels we've been running, I think, are super reliable. I run one set all off season, training for the 6 months leading into the year, and I'm not the best mechanic and not the best at straightening my wheels, and it's something I've never really had to do. So even during races, it's nice to know that you've got a wheel that will make it through.
Is it, I mean, you mentioned earlier about the fact that it's important to have the threaded spoke and no rim tape because it's easy to maintain that wheel, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's just less stuff to go wrong, I think. You don't have spokes poking holes through and rim tape trying to seal up your tubeless setup. So just a good, reliable system.
Yeah, actually you mentioned it there, it's a system, isn't it? It isn't just, we're talking about wheels here in pay, but it's like, it's the frame size, it's the wheel size, it's the tyre type, it's tyre pressure, it's your handlebar size. There's so many things to think about as a racer, right?
Yeah, it's the last couple of days we've been doing suspension stuff, and that's been super important, and that's obviously a big key to getting your bike set up. And yeah, done a couple of different settings, even last year with the back shock, and doing one thing to it can make your back wheel not the happiest of things on your bike if it's not all working together.
Yeah, so I guess sort of one wheel might work with one suspension setup, but it might not work with another suspension setup, right?
Well, I think more if your rear shock's not working the way it should be, you sort of just your wheel's taking way more abuse than it needs to.
Yeah. 2020 then, it's going to be 29-inch wheels all the way, or are you open for changes along the way?
No, I'm not like a huge fan of the different wheels, so yeah, just pulled the trigger mid-year last year to ride a 29er, and sort of got more comfortable throughout it as the season went on, and now I've had a full off season on it, so ready to go.
Nige, Sam Hill, 3 successful EWS campaigns, winner. Now, how did he go from 27.5 wheels in 2017 and 2018 to 29-inch wheels?
Well, to be honest, Steve, it was pretty simple. So I just suggested to him, we'd sent him a 29er bike, but he wasn't really interested in trying it because...
Well, like not interested at all?
No. So, you know, Sam doesn't really go with trends or anything. He just, if something's working for him and he feels comfortable, he's like, why change? So, you know, he was happy with the 27.5 bike, and I said, you know, while you've got a bit of time at home, just go and give it a try. You know, try it. You know, you've got a bad start to the season. You know, quite far down the table. Just give it a whirl. So basically, he went out, rode his local trails that he rides on Strava, and then spoke to him after that, and he was like, "Yeah, I felt slower on it, but I was actually consistently quicker on my own trails. So yeah, I'll just ride that bike." And that was it.
John, this car park on the side of a French mountain road is actually an insight into future SRAM products, really. It's a testing camp for SRAM athletes, but what we see here is something that will be on production bikes in maybe a year or 2 years down the line.
Some of the stuff we'll probably see in about 6 months from now. Right. Some of the stuff we're using just for testing, right? We're always trying to use our athletes, leverage them so that we can learn more about how we can improve suspension for everybody. So some of the stuff they are testing you'll see later this summer, some of it maybe not, some of it we're just using it as a learning experience.
Yeah, so tell me, what kind of percentage of the testing is time-based versus feeling-based?
So we did have a free lap system running on the hill, right? Some athletes find that more useful than others, right? Like that's how their minds work. But everything's always feel-based, right? If they're pushing 100% up there, then time is important, right? Or if they're giving the same effort every time. But really, we're looking for feel. Yeah. At this time of the year, we're just looking to make the bike feel the way that the athlete wants. And less about time. We do like it's fun when they throw down a heater at the end of the day and we kind of see how the times stack up, but we're not really looking to be like focused on what's the fastest time.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice one. Thanks, John.
Of course, thanks.
A brief insight then into the world of pre-season testing here in the south of France. We've spoken to the racers, we've spoken to team managers, and we've spoken to some of the engineers involved in this whole process. What do you guys think of testing? Have you been testing products? Do you prefer carbon or alloy? Do you prefer 29 or 27.5? Let us know in the comments down below. In the meantime, don't forget to give us a thumbs up, like this video, and hit the globe for more mountain bike content on GMBN.